And it took me about 6 months going through the book. Half of the words I didn't even know. You know, it's a very dense book, no dialogue. It was all the interior monologue by Walt. Yeah, so I completely fell in love with it. I felt like it's just so relevant. At that point, everything I wanted to express was in that book. So Jocelyn and I spent a few months just talking about it. Then she gave me her blessings. And I spent some time casting. I did everything I could to get to this guy, to get him the script, because for me he was the only Walt. I came to LA and met him in his kitchen. Yeah, so as everything I do is a process, and it's usually a process that has to build my trust and my conviction that it's the only film I can do and nothing else. And, you know, he followed me. Ian followed me with Caleb in making the music, which is an inextricable process in my making a film. And Rebecca O'Brien, my main producer in the UK, she got on a car with me during the pandemic and we found the location. Just us, just the two of us. You know, there was never a location scout or production manager or anything like that. It was just the two of us building the movie during a time where movies could not be made. But we actually really built up the entire movie during that time.
And Caleb, I wanted to ask you about Walter Thirsk. He's such a rich character. What attracted you to the role and to working with Athina?
The way she wanted to work, and we didn't really discuss it in ways as such, but in the way that she was just speaking about just now, how she found the space with Rebecca, and it was Paul, right?
Yeah.
So Paul, who was integral into meeting certain people that Athina later met and putting us in touch with certain folks and stuff like that, later became a part of the film and plays a part in the film along with his wife who cuts out the tongue of poor Chester. Anyways, maybe not poor Chester. He's a nice guy and a really great dancer. But the way she made the movie was very different to how folks make movies. And a lot of folks say you can't do the things that she did. And they're very simple things. And they those things become and play such a major role in the film and become the film in many ways. And I was really excited to work with someone who was still a believer in cinema, still was fighting for something that I came to Los Angeles thinking existed, and after 6 months thought was maybe more or less dead, you know. And I really struggled to work with folks that show something else. But Athina really blew the lid off of the conventions and the ways that I've been told you can make a movie. And I wanted to be a part of that very much because I'd been working that way in my own way. And it was really perfect to finally work with someone else who wanted to pursue it.
We're lucky to have with us two members of the Harvest Family Band. So, I was wondering if you and Caleb could talk about, how you conceptualized the music and how you made that together.
It was a really beautiful process between the small ensemble that we put together, which was not only Caleb and myself and Athina as our conductor, but Nicola Becker, who was the sound designer of the film, and a producer and engineer, Lex, that he works with quite frequently. We had not a lot of time, but we had the chance to dream of doing the music in the same spirit that the film had been made. And it was very a beautiful form of communication that was against the odds, maybe to think of doing the music in this way. But so many parts of this film, I think, were dreamt to be made in the way that they could hope to be made. In the music, we were very lucky to make it in the same spirit.
It was made live, you know, so there was not a separation between like composers doing stuff.
It was broken.
You know, it was just watching edits of the film in London and then in Paris. Overall, it was like 6 days of work, and it was really like, really a Harvest family band.
It was like making the movie, kind of.
Yeah, and it all started because after we shot the film, we were back in Caleb's kitchen. And
A lot happens there.
yeah, and those guys were jamming, you know, he on the drums and Ian on the keyboards, and I was like, you know, that sounds pretty good for Harvest. So why don't we just get it together and actually do a recording on scenes that I kind of know what kind of temperature in terms of music I want. And we just got together in London and did it. And then we went back to Paris to do like the rest of the scenes. But it was actually really incredible because they were just the same way with the cast in the film, just reacting and living and breathing with, I mean, I didn't actually really have to do anything.
But you and Nicola Becker's, like your relationship with Sean Price Williams, with Nicola, like your relationship with everyone, I feel like you create this space for them to do what they are great at, but then you also push them a bit, including myself, everyone, push us a bit to do some stuff we're uncertain about, some stuff where we're wondering if it'll work or not, and then throw 3 sheets to the wind and give it a go. And I feel like a lot of people were doing that on the movie. Yeah, and in the music too. Nicola is this kind of agent of chaos, and he loves the broken, he loves the naive, he loves the searching, you know, and it was perfect for me and Ian, who was searching, and Ian had very much a melody in his head and certain things in your head that had lived there and were still there, and you kept bringing them out, and it felt like Nicola and I were destroying them or something like that, and this was piercing through. But it was a lot like making the movie, where Athina was asking all of us to bring ourselves, but also to push us in ways that were foreign to us, more or less, perhaps, or just really wonderful to be in that space to do that and to have that acceptance.
I was wondering, the movie really is about kind of this sense of community. I was wondering how you guys obviously have a super close relationship, but how you created that sense of community on and off the screen.
Yeah, so we went there. First, Rebecca and I went there, and once we found the place, it was already part of the script, and always the way I work that there was not going to be any extras. So I spent lots of time in Oban, Western Scotland, first meeting people and becoming friends and visiting the places. And then our casting director, Shaheen Bang, came, and we did a week of town halls. And we saw about, I don't know, it was like 350 people in order to find the villagers. And then once we found the villagers, then I worked with the 60 villagers for a long time, a couple of months before the main cast came, which I had taken about a year finding the rest. So, you know, every single person in the village, of the villagers, had a character name. They were all characters, and they were all farmers, craftspeople. Like everyone you see doing something is because they actually do that in real life.
And the choreography, can you talk about that a bit? Because I felt like there was so much movement. And was that improvised, or did you work with someone? Or?
Yeah, movement is the main way that I workshop characters. And in all of my films, the workshop is physicalized first before dialogue comes into place. And in this case, I was very, very lucky to have a true choreographer joining us, Holly Blakey. She's a, you know, like, in my mind, the best of her generation in British choreographers and internationally. So, like everyone, she committed, and that's also very rare, like all the crew and the entire cast committed to the entire period of rehearsals and shooting. So she was actually there rehearsing with everyone, breaking the ice, you know, while I was running around. You know, usually I'm in all the rehearsals, but I had to do so many things with all the other departments that actually to have her, you know, we started by just choreographing the main dance and the movement, you know, and all the things that had to do with the corn dolly, but everything else to me was choreography, and also to Holly. So we really broke down each character according to movements, according to their presence in space, you know, the way everyone was walking and negotiating the space. Yeah, so it was a big part of the rehearsals, and actually, it was also my method as a director, and very much grateful to my producer who gave me this in a very poor movie to actually say, no, we're gonna actually dedicate enough money for you to have this like 3 weeks before. And that's how we got all of the villagers to, you know, so everyone was together, you know, for 3 weeks. So it was not just people showing up on set.
Caleb, you mentioned Athina's unconventional directing style that you loved. And I was curious what some of these methods that other films don't allow or you thought couldn't be done, but it was done here. Like what some specifics?
I think most of the time there's a lot of aspects of making the movie that get in the way from actually making the movie. There's certain kind of respect and love that Athina has for her crew, her cast, everyone that she's involved with, and that kind of permeates everything. And we're working in a kind of time where the craft and things like this are not really respected very much. And Athina emotionally values, I think, this very much, and pushes it. But she creates a space that other people are still trying to tell you can't do it that way. Many people, including myself, were fighting Athina while making this film, that you can't do this and you can't do that. That's another setup. We can't do that. It's this time. Are you kidding me? It's 20 feet away, but it's another setup. You need a stuntman for that. You know, there's still all kinds of things that still make their way into the film and become challenges, you know. But on other sets, there is a kind of perception of making a movie that differs very greatly to Athina. She comes as I think, as a purist, as a true lover and fighter of cinema. So she comes from a bit of a different space than sometimes I've seen on other pictures where you don't have that kind of support. Certain kinds of things come into play that become more important, that take away from the essence of what it is. Things get convoluted and squeezed, and you end up taking out all life from a film, and that happens a lot. And we're digesting a lot of it. So for me, it's very rewarding to work with someone who's fighting against those kinds of contemporary.
We're fighting a
throws.
lot.
Yeah, we're fighting a lot too.